I swear, every year I get older and the toilet water gets a little bit higher. What's up, YouTube? It's Big Ryan, the fat guy. Week 17 brought some interesting results. It started off with Cincinnati and Baltimore. Maurice Candy really let the Ravens down.
And Tyler Boyd let the Bills Mafia unleash the dragon in regards to their long 18-year playoff drought.
Atlanta took care of business at home, frustrating Cam Newton and Greg Olsen to victory. Tennessee took care of business on 28 carries from the one and only Derrick Henry. And hey, look at that. The Seattle Seahawks, the dysfunctional Seattle Seahawks, lost to Arizona.
Did you just disrespect the Seahawks?
I just disrespected the Seahawks.
And you should. They're trash. They're a bunch of bums.
That pulls us up to our award of the week. And the gamer said, yo, F you Seahawks will blow out the Cards, not maybe beat. Disrespectful F.
He also deleted that after the game. So a little convenient results-based gamer. Some of our other commenters were a little rude, but they had a lot more class than you. They can accept the loss, unlike yourself.
Now let's look at the wildcard games this week. On to the playoffs. Let's start with Saturday's early game. The Titans travel to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. The Chiefs are 7.5-point favorites. Currently, 69% of the public have taken the Chiefs to cover at home. Fat guy, who do you like against the spread?
Well, I'm not big on Chinese calendars, but I'm thinking it's the weekend of the dog, if it's not already the year of the dog. And I'm going to take the Tennessee Titans. 7.5, decent amount of points, a touchdown. If I'm getting spotted a touchdown, I'll take it. I think Derrick Henry might have a little bit more success running against this Chiefs team than in the past. A little worried about his lateral movement, but straight line, the guy's a brick shit house. Even though the Chiefs are pretty much better in almost every category, I'm going to bank on the Titans keeping it close, and let's see if Malarkey can cut the malarkey out of it.
The Chiefs also sat players their last week, which isn't a great sign going into the playoffs. What do you think about that?
There's always two schools of thought. Play them all and keep them acclimated, or rest them. Mind you, there's a lot of guys that are banged up. I'm okay with resting banged up guys, but keeping the rest of the team going. But I like playing everybody. I like keeping them acclimated to the game. So we'll see if this is a mistake, which school of thought wins out. So I'm going to take the Titans. 7.5 points. Sounds good to me.
How about the home field advantage in Kansas City? What do you think about that?
In my estimation, toughest place to play in the NFL. Seattle's got a good case. Of course they do. So does Denver with the altitude. But Arrowhead is just historically a difficult place to play. If you look at false start penalties over the last 10, 15 years, particularly when the Chiefs are better. When the Chiefs are better, there's more false start penalties. It's a tough place to play, tough place to go, tough place to win. But I don't need a win. All I need is a touchdown or less loss for the Titans, and it'll be a cover.
How about that coaching matchup? We have Mike Malarkey with the Titans and Andy Reid for the Chiefs.
Andy Reid, huge advantage there, no question about it. He's been here before. I believe this is Malarkey's first trip to the postseason. He had kind of a tumultuous career with Jacksonville beforehand. And before this season, he was the losingest coach in NFL history. But Hugh Jackson can comfortably sit in that seat after another Browns impressive season, putting him at a career mark of 1-31 as a Cleveland Browns head coach.
Moving on to Saturday's late game, the Falcons travel to LA to take on the Rams. The Rams are 5-point favorites. Currently, 45% of the public have taken the Rams to cover at home. Fat guy, who do you like against the spread?
Again, I'm going to go back to my Chinese mysticism with the weekend of the dog. And the Oracle is going to select the Atlanta Falcons. I'm not sure that the Falcons are necessarily better than the Rams, but I like that number. I like the number. If it was less than a field goal, I would take the Rams for sure, but I like that number. I think the Falcons are going to be able to keep it close. The Falcons' offense is kind of a shell of itself since losing Kyle Shanahan. They're not as strong as last year, but I think they're going to be able to keep it within the number against a really, really strong LA Rams, and quite an impressive first campaign by head coach Sean McVay.
Is there any home field advantage in LA for these Rams?
There wasn't to start, but it certainly seems like it's shaping up to be. Home field advantage is a tricky thing. When you're not doing so well, it kind of becomes almost a detriment. When you're hot like the Rams are, it's definitely a place to play. It'll be tough for the Falcons like any team on the road in the playoffs, but again, I like the number.
Next up, I want to talk about the quarterbacks in the Falcons-Rams game. Because last year, Matt Ryan, MVP of the league. Jared Goff, maybe the worst quarterback in the league last year. How much has changed in a year to have Jared Goff as a 5-point favorite against Matt Ryan in the playoffs?
Well, like I said earlier, Matt Ryan lost his offensive coordinator, and that really put a damper on the season. They replaced him with Steve Sarkisian. Been hot and cold. I actually say it's a poor job considering the talent that they have on the Atlanta's offense. You have Devonta Freeman, you have Tevin Coleman, you have Julio Jones, and you have Matt Ryan, who's a year removed from MVP season. There's a lot to work with here. Many coaches would love to jump into that role. Conversely, the Rams look kind of bare in the cupboard up until McVay shook things up. And Jared Goff was, well, Goffle. They've turned it around all on a coach's back, and the coach riding on Todd Gurley's back, who had probably an MVP caliber season. So it's going to be nice to see probably the current MVP play last year's MVP in a playoff tilt, where again I'm leaning to the Falcons.
Now let's take a look at Sunday's early game. The Bills Mafia traveled to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. The Jags are 7.5-point favorites. Currently 40% of the public have taken the Jags to cover at home. Fat guy, who do you like against the spread?
Oh, here we go. I'm shaking the 8-ball, shaking the 8-ball, shaking the 8-ball. Not doing the 8-ball. Oh, boom, here we go. Buffalo Bills. Again, I like the dog. I like the dog. This match is similar stylistically, as the Bills and Jags are kind of built the same way. Mind you, the Bills are rebuilt. They weren't expecting to make the playoffs in any sort of fashion. But my congratulations to head coach McDermott and GM Bean. They have been absolutely lights out. They've rebuilt this team into a playoff team in essentially no time at all. They are built like a worse version of the Jaguars, but again, these are power run teams, and they both have strong secondaries. In times like these when they're both going to run the clock down to 0, I prefer taking the dog, especially when I'm getting spotted more than a touchdown. Both secondaries are strong. Bortles will have tough time with this secondary, so they're going to focus on the run. Tyrod Taylor, he's going to have a tough time with this secondary like everyone is, so they're going to run the ball. McCoy might be a question mark here. I'm not sure what happened to him. But again, they're both going to have some success on the ground. The Jaguars more than them. I like the Jaguars to win by a touchdown to keep it within the number.
The changes these two teams have made over the last year have been substantial. Let's start off with the Jaguars and the coaching and GM changes that they made. How much of a difference did that make?
Well, Marone has been excellent, more or less to say. Oddly enough, he coached the Buffalo Bills a short time ago, and then he moved to become a positional coach in Jacksonville, and then he eventually took the reins from Gus Bradley. He declined his option to stay as the Bills head coach, I believe, 2 years ago, so it's going to be a weird thing against his old team. Also, the Jaguars poached star defensive tackle Marcel Darius, so he's going to have a little revenge game against his old team. So there's a lot of crossover between the two teams. McDermott was poached from a successful organization in its own right, the Carolina Panthers. Same with their GM Bean, who has been fantastic to start. The one difference is the Jaguars have a few extra years of a rebuild, and the Bills, this is their first year. So the Bills have an inferior roster to say the least, and they're heading into Jacksonville. This is a tight one for me, but I'm still favoring the Bills in that they can lose by a touchdown and still win the bet.
Finally, on to Sunday's late game. Cam Newton and the Panthers travel to New Orleans to take on the Saints. The Saints are 6-point favorites. Currently, 63% of the public have taken the Saints to cover at home. Fat guy, who do you like against the spread?
Again, I'm going with the dog. I'm going to live by the dog and I die by the dog. And I'm going to go with the Carolina Panthers. This is a tough one, too. I mean, the Saints, they can blow out anyone, but they've kept it close in most of their divisional games. So I don't see why it should be any different here, especially when the stakes are so high. Carolina's improvisational offense is always a threat with Cam Newton at the helm. I bet they have a couple tricks under their sleeves, especially with Don Shula's son, Mike Shula, at the helms of the offense. They can be a little bit creative at times, and let's see if he pulls any rabbits out of the hat, let's say, in New Orleans.
Moving on to the lightning round, Tennessee at Kansas City. Who do you like?
Tennessee Titans.
Atlanta at the Rams.
Hotlanta Falcons.
The Bills at Jacksonville.
Bills Mafia shoutout, Buffalo Bills.
Carolina at New Orleans.
Carolina Panthers.
Bronies, that's it for us. Good luck with your playoff picks in the wild card round. There's nothing wrong with two guys professionally respecting each other. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more Big Ryan the Fat Guy.